cannabis in Arkansas, and we've all been involved now since its inception, and I think we'll all be involved throughout. So what do we see happening over the next, call it a year or 2 years? And I think we've read a lot in the newspapers about what's happened so far, so I think it's important to sort of catch up what's happened so far, and then let's go forward from there. So let me just go through a couple of, a series of dates to get everyone up to speed. So November 8th, 2016, Amendment 98 was approved. It's a 53 to 47% margin approving it. September 8th, 2017, that's when the applications were due. There's 100 cultivation apps, there were 200 dispensary apps. And then February 26th of this year, the Arkansas Medical Marijuana Commission released their scores, and within that scoring scheme, they identified the top 5 scoring apps as the recipient of licenses, and they issued temporary licenses. Then on March 13th, 2018, a group filed a lawsuit against the ADFA, the ABC, the AMMC, and those are the 3 agencies that have most of the regulatory oversight for the program. On March 14th, the day after the lawsuit was filed, Judge Wendell Griffin, a circuit court judge, issued a temporary restraining order, and within that direction, he prohibited the AMMC, the Arkansas Medical Marijuana Commission, from issuing any final licenses. There was an emergency hearing on March 16th, a few days later. Again, this was held in the Pulaski County Circuit Court. And at the conclusion of that hearing, Judge Griffin converted his temporary restraining order into a permanent injunction. And in his formal opinion, which was issued a few days later, he held that the licensing process was, quote, ultra-virus, violated due process of law, resulted from improper procedure, and was otherwise arbitrary and capricious, and was declared null and void. He then joined the AMMC from issuing cultivation licenses. So this was a big roadblock, obviously, and it's been covered quite extensively in the media. And then soon after that, the Attorney General, who is essentially the legal body that defends state agencies, filed an appeal and went directly to the Supreme Court, and there was an expedited briefing schedule, so all this stuff could happen in a very short time frame. June 7th, there were oral arguments before the Supreme Court of Arkansas, and then on June 21st, my birthday, the Arkansas Supreme Court reversed Judge Griffin, finding that the Pulaski County Circuit Court lacked subject matter jurisdiction. And this is a very technical legal concept that goes to whether Judge Griffin ever had the ability to even consider the lawsuit as an initial matter. And the Supreme Court said he did not for various technical reasons. And then July 10th, about 4 days ago, the final licenses were issued to the 5 cultivators with the high scores. And so that sort of brings us up to where we are now. We have there's no injunction, licenses have been issued, and the AMMC is sort of progressing towards figuring out how to score the dispensary license. So I guess my first question, and I'll first ask it to Representative House, is, when we began down this journey, is this something that the legislator thought could happen, or is this how you envisioned the program rolling out, or did we see sort of a different, more smooth path?
At this point, we're 7 months behind what I thought the timeline would be. It's July, 7th month. I thought we would have product available in December. It took I was listening to your timeline, a couple of other dates that were kind of important. We had the election November, December, the 5 commissioners were appointed. Then they basically took from January to September to adopt their rules. A little longer than I thought necessary, but something else had happened. We had the intervention of the legislative session, which adjourned in March, and the few laws that we passed that torqued the amendment itself and made it a little bit more workable didn't come into effect until the 1st of July. So right there's 7 months. It's just the way the amendment was written, which is government involvement. And there's an old saying, if you want to kind of understand it, you can have 2 out of the 3. You can have it fast, you can have it cheap, and you can have it correct. Pick 2. You can have all 3. We're not getting it done fast. Judge Griffin held us up another 4 months, and now that the license has been issued, I expect we'll start seeing stuff come up out of the dirt, 3 or 4 months. Let's hope so. Right now, we're kind of in another important period. We're in a protest period. Somebody's awarded a license, and we were talking about it just earlier in the meeting. And they've got a facility going to be built right across the street from the Catholic school for kids. No, you can protest the award of that license, and that's a normal course event. Think of contractors. That's what's really going on. You want to really understand this process. The state of Arkansas builds buildings all the time. It picks contractors. And it'll interview a bunch of people, and it'll select somebody. They won't always pick the highest, most expensive, because they're the most experienced, or the cheapest, because they're the newest. They're going to try to pick the ones that can do the best job. It's a human activity. It's subjective. That goes to Judge Griffin's. The Supreme Court ruling. It's an executive function, best interest of the state. It's, like he said, very technical. But not everybody can be the contractor to build a building, right? So they pick 5. And you can protest a contract if you feel like you weren't treated fairly, or if you feel like the wrong person was selected, or something was out of the ordinary. And they can review that during, I guess it's probably a 30-day period, if I remember right. So if somebody's got, I used the example of the location. So that's where we're at now. And meanwhile, those that feel pretty confident in their position can proceed on with their building, their planting, and meanwhile, hopefully get those licenses out. How long it's going to take them? I figure the end of the year. We'll have all of them ready by the end. Y'all heard about the hiring of the consultant. They have the authority, no question in my mind, to hire somebody to help them. Anybody they want to, as far as I'm concerned. They still are responsible for the decision, no matter who they ask to help. And that's the way government works. And whether they have the money or not, I think they do through the Department of Finance Administration. So we'll see here in the next week or 2 if there's approval. They get approval to hire consultants. I think they will. I don't think it's going to be a question. They said they can't do it by themselves. Who can question that? So that's everything I know. Or think.